assuming once again that I pressed all the right buttons. Ooh, it says we're live. That's cool. Live. Appreciate you being on in short order there, Aaron.
Yeah, man, happy to do it. I hadn't been on here in a while.
I know it. I'll talk about that, but it's been over 100, or it's been almost 100 episodes, 99 episodes, I think. So, yeah, that's crazy. Oh, no, it's over 100. It's 109.
I feel like Clint Boyer when he won at Martinsville.
Yeah, right?
Like Dale Jr. winning at Michigan. I'm in the street.
Right. No kidding. Let's see. All right, we are out. Should be up and live and everything. Jumpy Bob is with us. What's up, Jumpy Bob? Just double checking. Sherwin, did you get the notice or whatever?
I didn't. I'm not holding my phone. Hold on. Let me see if it went out.
It's all good.
Yeah, it went out.
I have an old phone, and so sometimes it just decides that it didn't want to say that to me. So, no matter. Cool. Actually, let me bring up the sound effects. I will need that. Your internet connection is unstable. Bull spit. Oh, I know what the problem is. This might disconnect us briefly. Hopefully it won't. We will see what happens. So
it was lagging there for me. I don't know what it was doing for Aaron.
It would have lagged. I was on my I have like two Wi-Fi, I don't know, devices. Well, it's one device, but it's on two different bands. And I guess one of the bands is like one of the bands that everybody around here is using, and so it gets clogged up or something. And the other one, if I switch to that, then I'm good to go. Internet for days. So, yeah,
pretty well.
Hopefully that all worked out. But let's see, Jumpy Bob, Roger, what's up, fellas? So let's see. I think we are about ready. Oh, I was opening up the sound effects. That's what it was. So that I can get all the right stuff. We do have, Sherwin, you've probably noticed, a horn to blow. So that's good.
Oh, that's always fun.
Yeah. And that was your horn. So, yeah, you called Brad. That was totally the right move. I feel like you've had 2 or 3 horns this year. That's might be a record.
It's at least 2.
Yeah.
3 sounds about right.
Yeah.
Which is funny because, I'll catch a fresh ration, from the folks that interact with the hashtag PTM poll. So they're like, well, I don't like any of y'all's picks. And try to condition that poll with, it's not about whether you like the picks. It's who you think made the best pick. And if you don't like the picks, just quote tweet over the top of it who you think is going to win or who you want to win. Yeah. And then we all win because we get to see what you think about what's going to happen in the race. And everybody that follows you will get to see the poll. So it's like, hey, this is a promotional opportunity. This isn't like the end all be all.
Right.
Like if we wanted to pick who was going to win the race every week, I feel like there'd be a lot more fart horns. But a lot of it really has to do with, can we generate some interest both for ourselves and then whoever's listening by, coloring outside the lines.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if we don't pick, at least this year, Harvick and Hamlin every race, then you name any 3 drivers versus the field, I'm going to take the field. Even our 3 drivers that we pick. Like, yeah, you want the ones you picked or the field? Well, duh, the field.
Yeah, I mean, the math it just checks out. Like if you're talking about like betting in Vegas or whatever, or DraftKings or whatever it is you like to do. I mean, it just makes sense to take the field most of the time.
Right.
Yeah,
all righty, fellas. We ready to do some recording?
I'm good.
I'll ever be.
Sweet. Sherwin, have you been able to hear the intro the last few times?
Yes.
Sweet. So I'm not going to do my speech even. You should be able to hear me. If you
it,
don't
it,
hear me.
it bubbles out a little bit,
Okay.
But for the most part, it's way different than like the complete silence that we had when we were using Skype.
Okay.
That was
Fair.
always fun.
Well, either way, Aaron, you'll hear me bring you in, even if it's garbled to start with. It'll come back. So, cool. Here we go.
Good.
We are recording now. Welcome, y'all! That's right. This is the Pregame Engineer Tug Air Racing Podcast, episode number 260. Today is Tuesday, September 15, 2020. I'm Tug Air Rusty Wallace in the PTM Podcast Studio in Atlanta, Georgia. I'll be joined by our very special guest tonight shortly. But before then, y'all know what the deal is. This podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and some stickers. Best part is, every cent this year, we're once again donating to sponsored drivers. Be a part of the sport you love and join the PTM posse today. I said that in the opposite order than usual, so who knows what's going to happen here. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at that $5 and up per month level. They are Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Colton McClam, Eric Kettner, Ryan Keeper, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brandon Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brandon Carl, Ricky Porter, Julie Dawson, Eddie Greer, Third Young Motorsports, David Mullins, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, Chris Smoke, Fred Pizzato, Chad Knapp, Stacey Coleman, Lisa Chinata, Rick Houston, Sarah Anbari, Evan Roller, Brad Harrison, Matthew Bishop, Matthew Camper, Harry Malzania, Evan Jones, Les Miller, and Jumpy Bob. Woo! Got it. Boy, some days I've got a bigger breath than others. And today, just feeling it, I guess. Just feeling it. So with that, let's bring on our, co-hosts and special guests. First off, I've been saying lately from the PTM North Carolina studio, but Sherwin, I got to welcome you from the old studio there in I was about to say Marietta, but in Roswell, Georgia. It's Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
That's correct. Skew. What's up, everybody? Yep, back in Roswell, getting all the stuff cleaned out. There is nothing weirder than an empty house.
Right? Like
it is really weird. Like I'm sitting on a cooler, got 3 boxes set up, so this laptop is like, at desk height.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's it's weird.
Well, speaking of janky setups, we have tonight our owner, our guest tonight, owner of Motorsports Beat, NASCAR journalist, PTM PhD, and you heard me say his name really loud in the sponsor read there. Welcome to the show, and thank you on Twitter at Aaron Bearden93. It's Aaron Bearden. What's up, Aaron?
Hey, it's a good time to be alive. We got the 24 Hours of Le Mans, we got the Bristol Night Race, and we've even got college football and the NFL back, man. It is just a good time to be alive in the U.S. of A.
Look out. I hear you, man. I was kind of trying to poke fun at the setup, but only because I think you said you had something propped up against something else to get the camera working and everything.
Yeah, it's So I've tried to get a nice setup for recording on everything, and the last thing I need is the webcam. But I don't know if y'all have noticed in the COVID times, but anything remotely creative is back ordered till the end of time. So I tried to order a webcam in I think late June, and I still don't have it, and I'm not going to buy another one. So I'm just waiting on that sucker to ship. Until we do, I'm on my MacBook's webcam, and it's standing on top of a desktop speaker right now.
Very nice.
Nice.
We'll talk about it in a bit, but we were talking with Brandon from Lap Traffic earlier, and he was looking for a freezer, like a stand-up freezer. And he said he can't find a stand-up freezer nowhere. He finally found one in, like a scratch and dent store or a used store or whatever, and practically stole it. It sounded like. So yeah, that's good. But Aaron, you know how we start this thing. What are you drinking tonight?
Well, today it is a double celebratory Coca-Cola, and there are 2 reasons for that.
Okay.
Number 1, I ended my streak, because we kind of joked about in the pre-show. I'm finally back on with y'all. It's been 100 episodes or so.
No kidding.
And number 2, this is the nerdy outsider racing thing for me, but I've been picking my running back up this year, and I hit mile 800 ran on my run this evening. So it's been a busy 2020 for my legs.
That's awesome. Congrats on that. That kind of parallels what Rick Houston's doing for the Scene Vault. I know he's got some backing now from Marcus Lemonis and everything. So that's super cool. It's cool to see it. Seeing y'all get in shape, it just wears me out. So I just got to sit on the couch.
I can respect that. I can
Tell
definitely
you
respect
what.
Right. You mentioned it. Last appearance on in June of 2018 on PTM 151. So welcome back to the podcast. We're it's the same crap. What can I say?
Hey, I loved it then. I love it now. The only difference now is instead of writing for someone else, I'm writing for myself. So
yeah, there
not
you go.
too much changed on my end.
I always say, Sherwin, I don't know if you feel the same way, but when I go on somebody else's show, it's like, oh yeah, sure, why not? That's easy. I have to do zero prep, and all I have to do is be a butthole to people, and everything works out great.
Yeah, it definitely is pretty easy being on somebody else's show because there's no consternation around how it's going to turn out. You just talk, and they either record it or they don't.
yeah. And if you're on the PTM podcast, we'll just go ahead and record it. Heck with it. I'm not messing with this thing. Aaron, now I did make fun of your setup, but you do have a pretty sweet setup there with the boom mic or whatever you want to call it coming over. You said to me in the pre-show, yeah, I look like a Joe Rogan over here or something. So
Yeah.
it looks good.
I don't have the pre-workout. I don't have the Mary Jane or any of the fancy stuff. I just got a nice mic here. I'm trying to be like y'all and start a podcast here, so don't have a whole lot of details on it yet, but it is on the way.
Oh man, I can't wait to hear it. That's gonna be a boatload of fun. So there you go, everybody. A little teaser coming from Aaron Bearden. So, fellas, I wanted to bring this up to start with. Did y'all see that McDonald's has spicy chicken nuggets now? Did you see this? Like,
I did not.
okay. Well, so last night, me and the wife saw a commercial for it. She goes, that's interesting. What if we just went and got some? And I'd had a nightcap, and it was so good that I had another one. And I was like, well, as long as you're driving. But we went. They've got a spicy sauce that you dip it in and everything. And I tell you what, they didn't hold back. That spicy chicken nuggets with the spicy sauce is something to be. I'm not going to say feared, but it's worth trying out. It's tasty and it's got some kick to it. So I don't know. I just had to go with that. Do y'all, Aaron? Do you get into the McDonald's chicken nuggets?
Oh yeah. So as somebody who outside of COVID time spends a lot of time driving at God knows what hour of the night, you get hungry at 3 a.m. It's like McDonald's or Lord willing, maybe a truck stop will have like a Wendy's or a White Castle. So I've become quite a connoisseur of the 20-piece nugget on the drive home. You just grab it. And
The connoisseur.
perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Did you see they got the new burger too? This Travis Scott burger.
Yeah, so they had a sign. They might be doing this everywhere. I don't know. I'm not a McDonald's expert here, but they had the signs on all the ones around me that say like Travis Scott was here. And I guess you're supposed to like ask for Travis. I don't know how it works, but I'm only like loosely knowledgeable about Travis Scott's music, let alone his burgers. So I'm gonna let McDonald's do their thing there, but definitely interesting.
I felt like it was like one of those names that I've heard of before, but that I wouldn't tell you like, oh, is he an actor? Is he a singer or whatnot? So I put on some of his music and I thought, this isn't bad. Like I'll listen to it. So I'll have to listen to that. I can neither confirm nor disconfirm that alongside the McDonald's spicy chicken nuggets, there may have been a Travis Scott burger that was also ordered for the sake of trying new stuff. Boy, I tell you what, you come out with a new something at a fast food restaurant, and it's not like I go to McDonald's every day or anything, but like every time Taco Bell decides to put their ingredients in a different order and sell it to me, I am buying. Like I'm bull market on that stuff.
Now, are y'all the kinds that go and scoop up the McRib when it comes back in action?
No. McRib is heinous and is a crime against humanity.
All right,
There might have been a time then that I would have been interested in that, Aaron. Is 20 years ago, probably 23, 20-something years. Once I learned how to make good barbecue, and I think Rusty will attest to this, everybody else's barbecue kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. Aaron, are you into the McRib?
I really have to be in the mood for it, so it's like probably a once a decade move for me. But it's all right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like y'all say, it's not going to touch real barbecue anytime soon. But if you're just in the mood for some garbage food and it's on the menu, you might as well go for it, right?
Might as well have at it, fellas. It's mid-September. Sherwin, did you feel outside? It's like cold now. I don't know what happened, but like I was leaving work today, and it was like, now y'all got to understand, this is the South, mid-September, and it was like 71, and I mean I went I about started flipping trash cans over, just mad.
Yeah. I think the high tomorrow is supposed to be 67, or maybe that's Thursday.
Oh,
With lows in the 50s.
oh,
Which, I mean, hell, it's a lot better than 90s and 65% humidity. But good God,
I'll tell you though, when they finally opened the pool at my place, because it's COVID and you're sitting there bored to death in quarantine and whatnot, it's like, why don't I go down to the pool? So I've been down to the pool more times this summer than I have the entire however long 13 years I've been living here. So I've enjoyed the pool, so I've enjoyed the summer. So now that that's gone, or I can jump in and it's going to be 60 degrees in the pool, I ain't doing that. Now I'm back to like I got nothing to do. But college football started. How about them Jackets, Sherwin?
Yeah, beat FSU at FSU after Vegas bet the line all the way up to 13 points.
Right.
So
yeah.
I mean, it feels like that's the right thing. And there's a lot of underlying details there, not to overwhelm the point, but the kid that got the start was a true freshman, which we haven't started a true freshman since Reggie Ball. All jokes go to the Georgia fans out there that may listen to this.
It's fair. It's fair.
On that note, yeah, very fair. But he was a decommit from Florida State, who was a 4-star quarterback, and Tech hadn't had a 4-star quarterback since I think never is the answer to that.
That's about the time frame. Oh man! So Aaron, what have you been up to in the past 100 episodes?
Good Lord, where do I begin? I'd be a book to write. Launched my own outlet. My newsletter's rolling strong. I'm still working the day job. Got promoted there twice last year, so that has ramped up in a crazy way. I've actually got to give like a presentation tomorrow at like 7 a.m. So
oh God,
they're going straight to bed after this one, boys. But man, it's just crazy. I really just miss traveling more than anything. I miss being at the track and feeling like I'm providing enough to this industry for what everybody gives back to me from it. So, I need to start working a little more on some things. It's hard right now because a lot of the things I'm working on aren't things that are like immediately released. So from an outsider's perspective, it might not look like I'm accumulating a lot of stuff right now, but the work's still going in. So that's a little weird, but it's just a surreal year for me, like everybody else, I guess.
It's funny when Aaron Bearden is missing traveling, and I mean, you are infamous in the circles for it's 2 a.m. I'm done working in Atlanta. I'm just going to drive back to Indy.
Yeah.
Yep. So when you're missing it, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I think I didn't go more than 3 weeks without leaving the state for 2.5 years, and I've only left the state for one weekend in the last 6 months, and it's about to drive me nuts. Like, I love the state of Indiana, but I also love to see the other 49, so I would like to get on out of here one of these months.
Tell us about the outlet.
Motorsports Beat. So I first launched it. The idea was to establish a place for, I guess for lack of a better term, to create unique content and establish smarter race fans, like more educated race fans. So that was like the general principle behind my newsletter, which is the morning warm-up, where I write about basically everything that happens in the motorsports world that I can monitor and keep track of goes on it every morning at 6 a.m. ET. It all goes into your mailbox, and then I try to throw it on the site when I have time. So that was the crux of that. And then the kind of content I mainly hope to make overall is in that same realm. I got sidetracked by some health issues. I won't go into too much detail. Last year, it kind of threw me off my game a little bit. That's why I did the whole playoff push with NASCAR at the end of the year, just to kind of make up for it and show people I was still after it. But now it's interesting. I'm mostly known in NASCAR circles. Obviously, NASCAR is my series of choice, I guess, the one I've known my whole life. But I create what I'm trying to create, I guess, is in the whole motorsports world. And the general principle behind it is to establish a place where we can bring fans of all series together and kind of unify and kind of teach about the different disciplines, number one. Then number two, when it's all said and done, I also want it to be a place that can provide opportunities for people in a position like I've been in the last few years, trying to grow in the sport and move up to the next thing.
You know what I really like is the podium stuff. Tell us about the podium.
The podium, like in the newsletter?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So in each newsletter, I take like usually the top 3 biggest, most notable stories from any given day. And those are like the ones I write the most in depth about. So most of the times, it might be Lewis Hamilton wins his 90th Grand Prix because all Mercedes does is win in Formula One. It's whatever. But, sometimes, like I think it was this morning, I wrote about Matthias Ekstrom going and racing in an electric SUV series next year. Because it was just the third most notable story on the day. So usually there's probably a NASCAR story in there because NASCAR is the biggest for my readership and it's the one that connects the most with them. So if there's a big NASCAR story, it's probably going to make it. But I love that, like, even with something like that, maybe I can teach fans a little bit about sports car racing, or they might learn about some of these dirt guys that Kyle Larson's apparently beating up on every week. Or, there's opportunities there to educate. And I think it just, like I said, I'm just trying to make more educated and unified race fans.
Yeah, we had was it Justin Fiedler on last week, and of course he's a big dirt race guy, and we were like, all right, so besides Larson, what else is going on in the dirt race world right now? Because that seems to be the number one highlight every week.
Yeah, when he shows up, everybody else in the field has to be like, oh crap. I mean, I've never seen a run of dominance in a discipline like Kyle Larson's been able to do this summer. It's crazy impressive.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about too. Is like in the history of the sport, has there been this kind of domination? And I mean, objectively speaking, no, there really hasn't.
Yeah, I mean, you've had guys that have been able to control one discipline for a while. Obviously, you've had guys like Schatz in the World of Outlaws or Dave Darland in his time in USAC. There have been guys like that, but for a guy like Larson that can show up and run the Hoosier 100 in a USAC Silver Crown car on a mile dirt track and then go run a late model for the first time ever a week later on like a half mile and beat the best in dirt late model racing. That's just not something that ever really happens. Like, very few people even would get the opportunity to do all that, let alone cash in on it. So it's been really fun to watch.
That's awesome. Yeah, and circling back to it, the top 3 story thing, I really like that type of way to digest stuff. Like, okay, well, I know I only have to like, if it's just a newsletter with a boatload of stuff, it's like, oh man, I don't know what to do. But when it's like, all right, I've got 3 things to look at today, that's, I don't know, really attractive for somebody like me who's got very little time to look through this stuff. So thank you for that. I love it.
Yeah, man, that's kind of the point for it for me, is I want it to be something you can digest in 2 minutes if you need to. But it also, at the bottom, like the podium's the meat, and then I've got the potatoes below it, where if you want to dive into what's going on in motorcycle racing, you've got it in the one section on the bottom. So it's something you can invest 2 minutes or an hour in. It's really up to the reader to decide what they're after.
Right on. Well, with that, fellas, let's go ahead and tear it down with the report card. I still have not remembered to turn the volume down on that one. So, it is what it is.
Well, hey, Kathleen says it's awesome. Play it as loud as you want.
All right. Well, turn it up then. Well, Sherwin, you know what the greatest achievement that you can get on the PTM podcast and the greatest recognition. And today's recognition goes out to the co-host of the PTM podcast, Andrew Sherwin. Here it is, dude. Oh, that sweet sound of the foghorn.
Yeah, I didn't eat enough beans today to really, truly grasp how awesome the fart horn really is. But, yeah, I mean, if we wanted to pick who was going to win every week, we'd probably get a lot more fart horns.
No
But
kidding.
I mean, I picked Brad because I thought it'd be a fun thing to talk about. I didn't think he was going to win.
That's funny, but there it is. He did win, Brad, at Richmond. Really cool. So, let's talk about that. He had we talked about it last week when you made the pick, and I said, "Did you hear about his speech?" He had kind of this "Why not us" speech, and then goes out and wins this thing. Holy crap! It must have been pretty darn motivating. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That team, I don't think anybody knew what to make of them this year coming into it. We had the new crew chief. He got Bullens, who had been working with Blaney, and I think, fair or not, there was maybe some perceived notion that maybe Brad might have been getting the worst end of that deal just because Jeremy had the least proven track record of the three crew chiefs. But the way that two team has been able to strike seemingly every time they have had a car capable of striking is really impressive. And given their success on the what do you call it, the lower down force, I don't know, the non 550 regular package. Yeah. Given their success rate on that, if I'm one of his championship competitors, I'm a little nervous about that two team if they make it to Phoenix. Like, they are showing pace at the right places, and they've shown the capability to steal a race whenever the opportunity arises. So I'd be a little nervous about that, especially with Brad behind the wheel. You can ask any Jeff Gordon fan. He's not afraid to throw a car in a hole if a championship's on the line.
No kidding.
True story.
I like the kind of parallel that you're either implicitly or explicitly drawing there between Phoenix Raceway and what we saw at Richmond. It's somewhat similar, if you will, the size and everything. I guess what I'm getting at is if you're finding success at Richmond, you might be able to translate a lot of that to what's going on over there.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, the racing surface is different, so we don't know. I mean, even if it's the same tire, we don't know how this tire is going to adapt to the Phoenix racing surface. That's a whole other ball game. But just in general, with the way they've ran with this package, I think that two team is really scary, even for somebody like Hamlin or Harvick that has just been so dominant all year.
Yeah. Let's see, what else did we have there? This was the first race at Richmond ever without some sort of wreck caution, and there's been some I don't know, fire in the hole in terms of the interpretation of that. Sherwin, what'd you think about the race overall?
Well, I missed the first 250 laps, but based on everything I've read and everything I watched and read while I was sort of catching up, so to speak, I don't know that I missed anything. I think what was cool about the race was that there were some strategies in play.
Yeah.
In terms of pitting. But I think I would probably align with the other folks in the professional world that have said, why are we running the same tire at Richmond that we ran at Loudon? Like, how those tracks are so different. How is that? How can you maximize what the tire can deliver from entertainment perspective at those tracks with the same exact tire?
Yeah. Aaron?
Yeah, Richmond and Phoenix really align a lot better.
Yeah. Aaron, what do you think?
Well, it's difficult because, one, I love green flag racing personally. So this race was sort of in my wheelhouse to an extent. Like, I'm okay with it, the way it kind of played out, and there were people ebbing and flowing with the strategies, and saw guys like Austin Dillon able to drive through the field after they made mistakes. Like, that played to what I prefer as a viewer, but I also know I'm not necessarily the target on that. I'm not necessarily in the majority. In terms of just a package at Richmond, I liked it more than last year, and I say that as somebody who got up at 12:30 last year and drove all the way from Indiana to Virginia to then sleep through that. That race last fall was rough, the True Hex one. And I remember driving back. I had to do the whole drive back that night, and it was a 36-hour day. And I remember about halfway through the drive back going, man, why did I do that for that? Oh, my Lord. But, I thought the package worked. I think the tire needs some looking at. And I still think there's more work we can probably do with the package, because I think where I can kind of see what people who were leaning the other way are getting at is that for me, like, it's not necessarily the wrecks. Like I said, I love green flag racing. What is weird to see a race on a track that is like under a mile in length and see the majority of the cars come out of that whole cup length race pretty much clean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you didn't see a lot of, you used to, when you'd go to Richmond, you'd see some freaking tire marks on the numbers, the sides of the cars. And like, you don't necessarily always have to see wrecks, but I do think there was a little bit still missing in terms of drivers weren't sliding around a lot. You didn't see people, there weren't people rubbing fenders. There was a lot of the staple of short track racing contact is missing from that. And so for people that didn't like it, I definitely understand where they're coming from.
Yeah. Sherwin, you were going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing.
I got you. Yeah. How about this? You already mentioned his name, Austin Dillon. 2 top 5s. I mean, comfortably. You can't call it today. It's not necessarily mathematically, but pretty comfortably moving on to the next round. Is this a force to be reckoned with? Is this, a name to look out for? What do you think, Aaron?
Well, if you get through this round, it's kind of wide open for anybody, right? Because we get into the next round, we've got Talladega and the Roval in the same dang round. I mean, you've got 2 wild cards out of 3 races. Mm-hmm. So really all you got to do is get through this round, and I figure you've got a shooter's chance at getting to the round of 8. And Dillon is up 36 points right now on the cut line. So if he can avoid anything short of disaster, right, he's probably going to have a spot in that field. That team has really done everything they could have dreamed of coming into this round, considering where they were in the regular season. Mm-hmm. Just to make this kind of a jump. I don't think any of us saw it coming. I know I wrote them out in the first round. So really, that team has just done everything they could ask for. And like I said, when you get into this next round, throw a dart. I don't know who's going to make it through after that. Somebody like, let's say Harvick, let's say he gets spun late at the Roval, which can realistically happen. They get close racing at that track. It's kind of weird track. They kind of start bouncing off each other. Let's say he gets spun, finishes 23rd, and then he goes and gets caught in the big one 8 laps in at Dega. He enters up 50 points, but if you lose 25 points apiece in 2 races, I don't think anybody's going to feel real good going into that next round. So anybody who can make it through this round has at least a decent shot at the round of 8. And that's why I think somebody like Dillon's got to be feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah. I like
that.
Good
point.
Sherwin, what do you think?
No, I don't know what in the world that RCR figured out, but Austin has certainly come alive. And he's doing the kind of things in that 3 car that we've seen out of the 8 car up until now, which makes you wonder, okay, well, why aren't we seeing the same thing out of that 8 car? And we all know that we've been following this for a while, that these big teams, even just a 2-car team, is a big team like RCR, that not everybody's cars are the same. But it's kind of weird to me because that 8 car has performed so much better than the 3. The 3, they're setting the world on fire when it matters.
Right. Moving on to the playoffs. Update here. Byron and Boyer swap places. We talked about that. 3 points apart. Custer's only out 8. So, a fighting chance there, possibly. Burrito and Blaney pretty much need a win at this point. I was surprised in race 1 for Blaney. I'm extra surprised here. Sherwin, I think you're giving him kind of a fighting chance there at Bristol to be another surprise on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, well, he's really good there. We don't see that show up on the Wikipedia page per se, but he is very good at Bristol.
Yeah, and I feel like it's similar with DiBenedetto in that he has shown a lot of promise there. I'm not sure that he's in the winning phase yet of that team. Certainly in his career, I think he's there with that team and that car. It's a long shot. Blaney is a shorter shot. Custer, I feel like, some people got to make mistakes ahead of him for him to get in. And Byron and Boyer is essentially a coin flip for me at this point. I can see, it's got to be. That's one thing with the playoffs. I mean, Byron having all that success and all that, that excitement and everything, and now, fighting for it. So just 3 weeks later or whatever it is. So it's an interesting dynamic that they have to play. You can't celebrate that win like you could if it were the second race of the season. You gotta be right back at it. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, this is the closest I've seen in motorsport come to like stick and ball sports in the playoffs, where it's like you can have a great regular season, but once you get to the postseason, it's what have you done for me lately, man? Mm-hmm. Like you've got to capitalize on every opportunity, and man, the 21 and the 12 teams just couldn't have had much more go wrong than they've had in the first two races. So it's going to be interesting to watch Blaney, I think, just because I feel like they're going to throw anything at the wall to see what sticks. I mean, he was a fringe title contender early in the year. I think before COVID hit, he would have been somebody that maybe people would have penciled into their round of 8 or their championship 4. I don't know what's going on with that team over the summer months here that's caused them to struggle so much, but it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be pretty deflating for them if they fall out so quietly after the kind of noise they made early in the year.
Yeah.
And then the Benedetto, it's so interesting because for them, I don't want to say making the playoffs is enough because I feel like they've set high expectations this year. But for his career, I think making the playoffs is a great benchmark and a great way to say, like, look how far I've made it, basically, mm-hmm. considering he used to be riding around, 33rd in a BK racing car. Like, that's huge for him. But what is so peculiar about this is that you come into this now and he's at the Bristol night race that he all but won last year. And now it's like his whole – perhaps the only playoff run he'll get. We don't know what's going to happen with him next year. Yeah, like maybe this is the only shot he ever gets. We don't know, and it's going to hinge on the same race he almost won last year. It's just interesting how those kind of storylines always seem to emerge in this sport.
Yeah. I love the way you put that too. How about this one? Bubba announcing this week leaving RPM, and where's he going? I don't know, but I'm not. I'm not staying here. It was pretty, I'll say, shocking to me that he was, that was the case. If we know he's talking to everybody under the sun. He's got sponsors out the wazoo every week. He's picking up somebody new. I mean, the money is flowing in, and he gets to demand what he wants. I'm surprised, I guess, not necessarily that he's not going to be with RPM, but that it's. It doesn't also come with and this is who I'm going with.
Dead air! Woo! Sorry.
Somebody's got something to say about it.
I'll take one for the team here. It's so tricky with Bubba because, RPM, I felt like they from the outsider's perspective, it feels like they really did right by him, and those two entities have worked together so well to build into something cohesive and interesting to follow over the last few years. Their progress has been evident in the statistics. They've slowly improved, and there were times this year where they looked like a fringe playoff team. But for Bubba, he's kind of for lack of a better term, like a star of the moment right now. Like whether it's the performance on track or obviously the huge efforts off track and the major stories associated with him, he's become kind of this shining star for the time being in the sport, and brands have attached to that. But for Bubba, you don't know how long that star is going to keep shining, right? And the easiest way for somebody in Bubba's position right now to kind of capitalize on that and possibly extend that life is to go out, run well, and win like yesterday. And Richard Petty Motorsports, if they bring that kind of funding to him, yeah, maybe they get there. But you don't know, is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 2 years? Is this a 5-year deal? Like, what's it going to take for them to get back? Whereas I feel like if he takes a leap, which it seems like he's taking, to a big opportunity with a lot of support meshing around it at once, maybe he gets a better chance to get that win in 2021 or 2022. Maybe you're in a ride that can make the playoffs. And it's a gamble. But with where he's at, I feel like it might be the right move. Like it might be a smart decision to try to take that leap.
Yeah, and you know the conspiracy hats abound, and there's you know Bob Pockris is tweeting out some of this stuff, so it's got some legs to it, as we always say. You know, there's Suarez is out at Gaunt Brothers, so that was big news, and there's some talk about a ride swap there possibly, and then Hamlin they're saying could just buy Germain Racing and possibly sign Bubba. Sherwin, what do you think?
Well, I don't know that I'll get too excited about Hamlin and Jermaine until that's real. I, it's very unfortunate the way the Jermaine situation has gone down because they had all of their chips in the Geico hat, and Geico's like, yeah, we're going to take our marketing in a different, we're going to take a different angle. We want to be involved in NASCAR, but we want to be a partner entitlement sponsor and not a sponsor of a car. And so now you have Bubba leaving and you have Ty Dillon sitting there with a car that is not funded anymore. So it'll be interesting to see the way RCR handles that and the way Richard Childress handles it. We can all get super excited about the nepotism factor of NASCAR, but the reality is that it exists everywhere, even in our personal lives, that kind of stuff goes on. But, I guess what I hope is whatever happens, whether it's Hamlin buying Jermaine or Jermaine selling their charter or whatever it is, that stays a decent car or becomes an even better car for somebody to get to drive, maybe even have an opportunity like Bubba or Burrito or something like that, to show what they really have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think NASCAR has been missing that in a lot of ways. We see it a lot on Twitter and everywhere else about the whole, if you don't show up with money, you don't have anything in NASCAR. And it's like, well, that's not entirely true. There are still paths forward that can lead somebody to get an opportunity that maybe not because they bring some gigantic sponsor with them, but just because, they're good enough at all of the other little variables that make up being a race car driver.
Mm-hmm. So, Aaron, I guess two-parter, any legs to any of these rumors abounding about, between Gaunt Brothers? I mean, the Suarez out at Gaunt Brothers is a thing, but Hamlin buying up Germain Racing and Bubba going to either one of those, I guess that's part one. And part two, very related, is that the upgrade you'd be looking for from Richard Petty Motorsports to jump into a car like that, or are we holding out for something a little more prestigious, I would say, and maybe not as experimental as one of those would be?
I really just think it depends on all the connections and all the things attached to it, right? If you look, my colleague, friend Jim Utter over at Motorsport today shared his report, which was that, I mean, nothing is confirmed. Nothing signed, but the thing that he had shared, for example, was that Bubba looked like he was probably going to go to Gaunt Brothers and they were going to get elevated support from Toyota and maybe even get kind of Hamlin buying into that, which would help them. And they sound like they were going to acquire a charter. So I don't know. Maybe the play on that is to get the charter from Germain and take it to Gaunt with the added Toyota support and make it into like a furniture row. I don't know. I don't have the connection to be able to say conclusively one way or another what the plan is. That's just something that seems to be the scuttlebutt. But for him and kind of a sure deal with RPM that he could have kind of kept slow growing or potentially grown quicker to make that kind of leap tells me that somebody somewhere has given him pretty strong assurance that they're going to get the kind of support they need to make something legitimate happen out of it. So whether that's true or not, I mean, nothing's announced. All of those stories have kind of been floating out there. Now it kind of seems like they're all starting to tie together, so maybe there's some truth to it. But I feel like Bubba's going to end up somewhere that is at least conceivably more competitive based on all of the things surrounding what we know so far.
Yeah, I like your analogy to like a furniture row kind of thing. Is that what we're trying? Is that what folks are trying to build here? And is that attractive enough? Like I said, Bubba's bringing bringing cash with him. And like Sherwin said, whether it's true in all cases or not, but he's got the backing there. And so wherever he lands, they're going to have the money to make a good car. Do they have the engineering? Do they have the backing manufacturer wise and all that? So it'll be very interesting to see. But yeah, I was really shocked at I'm leaving here, and that was the end of the sentence. There was no and I'm going to blah blah blah. I gotta imagine there's got to be some late stage work going on that that might come down to a decision, but not like I'm done here and I'm just gonna go test the waters or test the market or something. So anyway, we will see. Last week, just after the show, Jimmy Johnson releases a 1-minute video or so saying, well, it's official. I am 2 years signed in to run Indy. Now, Aaron, with you being right next door to Indy yourself, how exciting was that news for you? And what's this mean for Indy, for Jimmy, et cetera?
Well, it's just a really cool deal to see come together, especially with Jimmy's case, because 90 times out of 100, never mind 9 out of 10, 95 out of 100, if you see driver X say, I'm going to try IndyCar, it's, they're going to go run the Indy 500. Okay, that's really cool. The Indy 500 is the greatest spectacle in racing. It's a premier event. I totally get it. But for somebody like Jimmy, who is a champion, obviously a 7-time NASCAR champion, they kind of want to go, hey, I want to try these road and street circuits out in the IndyCar and see how it goes. And maybe he'll run Indy someday too. There's kind of wishy-washy on that. He for sure said no until they brought in the aero screen cockpit safety device. Maybe that lures him out. I don't know. But it's definitely around this area in Indy. It's definitely a really cool thing to see. I think everybody's excited to see how he gets on, especially when we might have somebody like Scott McLaughlin from Supercars, who's a champion over there, considering a similar leap. Like the idea that we could have like one of the greatest drivers in Supercars, Scott Dixon, who was just the GOAT of modern IndyCar, and then Jimmy Johnson, who was probably the top driver from the last generation in NASCAR, all in the same paddock together. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you would like read about back in the day with guys like Foyt and Andretti running all kinds of stuff. Like that's about as close as we get to that in the modern world. So it's definitely interesting to see, and a big win for IndyCar and maybe NASCAR too if Jimmy shows up and he's competitive.
Yeah, and from what I was reading, he's doing the road courses, right?
Yeah, he's running the road and street circuits basically, which is honestly the majority of the IndyCar schedule. I think it's close to like probably 2/3 of the schedule, something in the 13-ish race range usually. So, I mean, you see Jimmy at more races than not, which is wild to think about from a NASCAR brain, but will definitely be a cool visual.
For me, the Indy races that I tend to watch are the circle tracks, and maybe it's just because I can draw that similarity to NASCAR and say, okay, well, I know what to expect here. I know what they're thinking about. I know this, that, and the other. Whereas when NASCAR does the road courses, and I love them, I feel like I have less of an idea of what type of things they need to be thinking about on a lap-by-lap basis and everything. So the conclusion here is that with Jimmy going to that, I believe I will have a bit more viewership into that series, and I think it's a huge draw for a lot of the casual Indy fans to get back into it. I think it's a huge win for the series and everything. Sharon, what do you think?
I agree 100%. I think this is a windfall for Indy. Whether or not we see it show up that way in the numbers remains to be seen. But I don't know. If you're an IndyCar fan, I don't know why you wouldn't want somebody like Jimmy Johnson to come participate in your series, particularly outside of what we consider to be his stronghold, which in NASCAR is definitely the oval tracks. Just eliminating running any of the oval tracks right off the bat, it's kind of like, okay, all right, he's committed to what the roots of what we think the sport of IndyCar is, and I just can't imagine a scenario where this is bad.
Right. Aaron, do you think he'll find any success, or are we looking at a 18th place Jimmy Johnson every week?
Man, there is so much that goes into an IndyCar road course race. You can catch a caution at a wrong time and have been leading the race and finish 16th. And somebody can spin in front of you on your qualifying lap and ruin your qualifying run, and it can hurt your whole weekend. Like, the margin of error is so small in IndyCar that I could foresee some races where, man, Jimmy's running 4th, Jimmy's running 6th. And I could also see some races where, oh, God, Jimmy's running 21st. Mm. Like, it happens to the best of them. And that's what makes Scott Dixon so crazy in this era, is that, like, on a bad day like he had last weekend where he spins out early in the race, he still finishes 10th. He's the anomaly that he can salvage a 10th out of a bad day. Like, Simon Pagenaud finished, I think, like 17th or something on Saturday. And, I mean, he's the 2016 champion. So, realistically, Jimmy might have some good runs. He's probably going to have some struggles, and I really just think more than anything it's going to be interesting to watch him kind of adapt to that new form altogether.
Speaking of anomalies, Sherwin, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying, yep, I agree.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of anomalies, we talked about him earlier, but this is another, we need a Bob Pockris stamp of approval in terms of rumor mill. But something else that's getting reported: Larson being a strong candidate to Hendrick, and I mean that's it's obviously something that's been in the rumor mill, but now it's kind of like, okay, there's actually talks going on and stuff. The big challenge there, of course, is getting sponsorship and getting the manufacturer itself on board. How hard, Aaron, is that mountain to climb?
Whew. You would think it's harder now than it was when he went out, given the movements of the last few months in society. But, success has a way of overcoming controversy to an extent. Now, there's a certain amount of controversy that no amount of success can overcome. But for Larson, his talent is so extreme. And I think we've kind of seen that laid bare for us here over the season. Now, mind you, there's more factors to this. But Matt Kenseth is a champion. He was a genuine contender at Joe Gibbs when he was there. He ran pretty strong in the 6 car at times when he gave it a shot with Roush there. And that 42 car has not ran well this year, I would say. Outside of Indy and maybe 1 or 2 other occasions, that 42 team has struggled. And they got kind of helped make Larson's case for him in NASCAR as much as him just totally annihilating the dirt track community has outside of it. I mean, he's such an immense talent. And I think if he can show that he has truly learned from his mistake and grown from his mistake and show some real humility with that and get support from the right people, we could see a situation where Larson maybe does take over a ride like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing, honestly, is just showing that humility and proving to sponsors and manufacturers that this was a once-in-a-lifetime colossal mistake, and he's going to grow and learn from it, and that they can trust him with their brands.
Yeah. Sherwin, what do you think? Is it a long reach to get the folks on board, or is it you think he's got a decent shot here?
I don't think it's that long of a reach, to be honest with you, and I don't say that in any way at all to belittle what the transgression was. I think I based on what I've seen on all the different people we've interacted with, that redemption stories always get a little bit of momentum. Just purely on, I don't know, just excitement around redemption. I mean, think about all the movies that get rebooted. Those are all kind of redemption stories. But I don't know that the 48 car is realistic until we see that happen. It would be, to me, a lot more realistic for Chip to bring Kyle back into his fold. But I do like what Aaron said about how not so well that Kenseth has performed in that car. It kind of suggests that car, perhaps the driver before Kenseth was doing more with that car than the average Joe, even the average NASCAR champion Hall of Famer can do. I mean, Kyle, to what Aaron said about what Kyle's doing on the dirt tracks, like he's otherworld talent.
Right.
And whether you like it or
Oops, Sherwin, I might have lost your audio there. Aaron, you still with me?
I'm with you, buddy.
All right. It sounded like it was going to be good.
Yeah, he was making a great point.
Yeah. Well, while he's figuring that out, we'll talk in our recess here. Camping World to return as the primary sponsorship in trucks as the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. I'm not too surprised or anything about that. I mean, they've changed the name of the series a few times over the last couple of years, and going back to the Camping World Truck Series, it's whatever really that Marcus Lemonis wants to highlight that year, it seems, which, I mean, good on him. I found interesting that there's some possible new financial incentives that they're talking about. And Marcus saying that he feels like trucks is the number one series in terms of excitement. And he said Cup is great, Xfinity's fine and dandy, but nothing comes close to trucks. And I think we've said it so many times on this show that we very much agree in terms of the entertainment factor that comes with trucks. But I'm curious about these financial incentives and the types of things that can open up and opportunities there. Aaron, what do you think?
Well, as long as he's injecting the kind of money and support he's giving into it, Marcus Lemonis can put all of his brands on a Wheel of Fortune wheel and just spin that sucker, and whatever one it lands on, they'll call it. And I think NASCAR will go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any qualms with the name change. Honestly, Camping World's easier to say. It rolls off the tongue a lot smoother than Gander RV and Outdoors. So I have no qualms with it. I don't know a whole lot about the financial incentives. That's something that's kind of cropped up today. But, I mean, we already have pretty stout field this year. The fact that they were able to increase the playoffs, which I'll be honest and admit I didn't like at first, but they increased the playoff size, and we still had a competitive regular season. We have a defending champion, or not defending, a previous champion, and Johnny Sauter that missed the playoffs. We had a championship 4 contender and Stuart Friesen that missed the playoffs. We have a rising young star who was looking a lot better at the end of the year in Rafael Lessard who missed the playoffs. And we have 10 strong guys who are all fast and competitive and could realistically make a run at the title. Like, if he's doing anything to add additional depth or incentive to teams to that, I mean, more power to him, because the Truck Series has a lot working for it right now.
Yeah. Sherwin, do we have you back yet? Oh, nope. Bummer. Can't hear him. Not
Quick
sure.
Filibuster.
Yeah. Got to keep filibustering that. But speaking of Truck Series, we're kicking off the playoffs at Bristol, and to your point, pretty darn strong field coming down to Bristol. So with Sheldon Creed, Grant Enfinger, both with multiple wins. A lot of people with wins. Period. Brett Moffitt, no wins, but really solid all season. It's pretty amazing what he's been able to do. But then across the board, I mean, it's a really strong field. It feels like. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's shocking to me that Brett Moffitt hasn't won this year because he's ran so strong. But it just speaks to how strong that whole field is this year. I mean, Crafton looks like a winner again. Matt Crafton, 3-time champ, defending champ after a winless season. Now he's winning races again.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Rhodes finally stole one, but he's been competitive before he got the win. He was going to make it on points. Grant Enfinger seems increasingly flashy. Like he comes and goes a little bit, but when he hits, they've hit big. 3 wins this year. Austin Hill was having like a borderline historic regular season early on before it kind of slowed a little bit in the summer, but that team is strong. Zane Smith and Sheldon Creed both look like world beaters on their best days right now. Like, there's so much depth. And then you throw in guys like Todd Gilliland, who's out to redeem himself basically this year.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Ankrum, who's out to prove that his one win last year wasn't a fluke and that he's a legitimate championship threat after winning K&N a couple years ago. Christian Eckes, who, I mean, he's still a young guy with KBM. He could be the next one to make that leap up the Toyota pipeline. Like, there's there is a lot of going on in there. A lot of guys trying to prove themselves for various reasons, and it's going to make for a really interesting playoff.
Yeah. Sherwin, I think we got you back on the audio. We're talking about trucks, playoffs, and anything else with trucks going on. But how deep that field is and how, it's going to be crazy, especially coming to Bristol as the first race.
Yeah, I like what. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now I actually heard everything else said. Yeah. Well, trucks at Bristol. You don't even have to say anything else. But to Aaron's point, the combination between the older guys and the younger guys, and what we're seeing is pretty cool. And the field is pretty deep, despite the fact that we've had guys like Aaron mentioned, Sauter miss the playoffs, and that's a guy that you look at like a Todd Bodine or a Ron Hornaday Jr. as just a staple for competing for championships in that series, and for him not to make it means that there's a lot of young guys that are really driving trucks pretty good.
Right. Well, time to talk about next week. Before we do, quick shout out to Lap Traffic Podcast and Brandon, the professor over there. 200th episode tonight. You might, if you stick around to the end, you might hear some familiar guest appearances on there. We've had a blast hanging out with him and talking a little bit of NASCAR and a little bit of just BSing at the end of it. So yeah, be sure to check out Lap Traffic, and congrats, Brandon, on 200 episodes. Aaron, what other stories are you following that we haven't really, hit on today?
Whew. Well, I mean, it's really just the big old silly season picture right now, right?
No
the
kidding.
Championship's going to take care of itself. We'll see that play out on track. But, I mean, you've still got now the 43s open. Does that go to, does Suarez effectively swap rides and get that? Do they still want a diverse driver? Can Suarez make that into what would be for him, technically, I guess, a leap up from where Gaunt Brothers is now? Or does somebody like just Ty Dillon get it because it's tied in with RCR? Like, we don't know what's going on there. We've got Eric Jones is still just lurking out there and has all the potential in the world to be another Joey Logano story waiting to happen. I mean, he's a statistical darling in a lot of ways, and I feel like whoever gets him is going to benefit more than they might realize. So, I mean, there's still kids trying to work their way up. I mean, is Austin Cindric just going to keep dominating in Xfinity another year? Does he get moved up in some capacity? Chase Briscoe, is he going to stick around and try to rack up another 8-10 wins in Xfinity? Like, what are they going to do with those guys? I mean, there's just a lot right now. For a year that has seemingly never stopped, the news has never stopped with it. I mean, once we came back from the coronavirus hiatus, it's been kind of just pedal to the metal, wide open for, 6 months now, it feels like? Like, it's just never ending.
Right. So closing out this section, I saw this on NASCAR and Reddit today. If you go to wikipedia.com today, and today only, which means if you're listening to this tomorrow, which you don't know it's tomorrow because it'll be today by then, but you get the point. Tuesday, if you go to wikipedia.com, just the top page, the featured article, they have a different featured article every day, and today's featured article is the 2006 Subway 500 at Martinsville. With Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, Bobby Labonte on the podium. The top 10 was all Chevy and Dodge. Old Casey Kane Sherwin finished 7th. Kyle Petty in 10th. And I saw a lot of names on that list. Going back to those, and I mean, 2006, again, it just doesn't feel like 14 years ago, but it was. We have to come to terms with that. But the names on that list of folks, it was like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, I remember him. He was there for 2 years or something and ran off. And then you get into the pit of like, oh, click on him, see what he's up to now. That type of stuff. It was it really gets you going on that. But I thought that was a pretty cool thing for Wikipedia to highlight that as their featured article of the day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I went and got in the weeds, about some of that stuff just because pure curiosity, more than anything. But yeah, that is neat. I'm glad to see, NASCAR figure out, and not that NASCAR figured it out, but like NASCAR be the top billing for a site that's so well visited.
Yeah, yeah. So I was looking through here, and the names, of course, Brian Vickers, David Strimmy. I was like, oh, what's David Strimmy up to right now? That sort of stuff. So Ward Burton was in that race, 26th place. David Gilliland, and we're seeing folks run around in his camp doing well. Dave Blaney was in that race, and of course the Blaney tribe representing. So yeah. Anyway, I'll sit here and click on that all day. But it is time to gas it up. Here we go. It's a night race, it's a Bristol race, and it's an elimination race, all in one. It was a wild first race this season. We did the All-Star thing, and I mean it kind of worked, kind of maybe some kinks to work out, but overall, I mean, how can you not be more excited for a race than Bristol? Just almost this entire year, I feel like. I mean, there was Daytona Road Course. That one was something to look forward to and everything. But yeah, Aaron, what do you think?
Whew, I mean, what more do you have to say? It's the Bristol night race. Like, it's like in Step Brothers when they get to the end of that movie and they're all like, it's the freaking Catalina wine mixer. Like, this is our freaking Catalina wine mixer, man. Like, it is just anything seemingly can go wrong for anybody at any time. It's high speed. It's close quarters. It's hectic. It's frantic. It's just 500 laps of chaos in the best way. And like one of the most vintage feeling NASCAR races we have. So the fact that it's a elimination race now just adds to the fun for me. Like guys like Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch that are normally just balls to the wall trying to win this race every year, they've got to be a little nervous. Like there's a little bit of hesitation maybe in the back of their heads this time because they know if I screw up trying to pass Denny Hamlin for third and wall it, man, that might knock me out of the playoffs altogether. So watching guys having to play out and balance that aggression is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
I like the way you put that a lot, Aaron, because Bristol, despite the fact that we don't see, I mean, we have seen what we would consider to be the big one at Bristol before, but it's not like Talladega and Daytona in that you almost, it's not that you expect it, you know it's going to happen at some point. Well, Bristol has a lot of those elements in it. It is, I mean, you could very easily start on the pole and finish this race in 38th. And that, such is the nature of short track racing, and probably the reason why we all love it is because there are a lot of things that are almost out of your control, and then what we see when the package is all dialed in the way that we'd like to see it is drivers make mistakes and they screw up, and that's what we want to see because package or not, 750, 550, high downforce, low downforce, whatever it is they've got, they make mistakes, and but they're pushing the car to the limit. Yeah. And if there's any place in the world you have to push the car to the limit, it's Bristol. Like, because you can go a lap down in 16 and a half seconds if you're too slow.
Yep. Well, fellas, it's time to do some picks and who we think's going to take home the checker flag this week. Aaron, why don't you go first for us?
Do I be lame and take Harvick or Hamlin, or do I get creative?
You do whatever you want. You're the guest.
Man, there's nothing to lose if I get creative, right? Let's say, give me a Kyle Busch bow. It's been a long time coming. He's in a spot he's very rarely in where he kind of has to go. If he can survive the first couple of stages with his 18-point cushion, he's probably going to be okay playoff-wise. But, man, that team has just not had the year you would expect from him, especially after a championship season. And I've been feeling all year, like I feel like everybody's been thinking, like they're going to break out of this, right? Like it's Kyle Busch. So give me Kyle Busch bowing to 30,000 fans, and I have no idea what their reaction will be after the way this year's been.
No kidding. Well, I mean, to your point, I picked Kyle last week, and we were on Lap Traffic earlier today, and we, talking about that. it's still every race. It's like, all right, well, when's Kyle going to do something? When's Kyle going to do something? I was saying that it would be a huge momentum boost to get a win or really run top up there. Just kind of dominate yourself a Bristol race like you've done before, and say, hey, Kyle Busch back in this playoff hunt. So I like it. I am. It's been a few weeks at this point, so I'm going with the homer here with Chase. So Chase Elliott, obviously really strong at these tracks. He's strong. Where is he not strong now? If he's on a mile and a halfer, then he's always a good pick. If he's on a road course, forget about it. And Sherwin, me and you watched him win at Talladega. So might as well build that short track resume to go with it. I think he's got a fighting chance here, and he doesn't have a whole lot to lose at this point. So really, just like Kyle Busch, in a way, just stepping on the gas and getting some momentum going in the next round, I think it'll be strong. So Sherwin brings it.
Yeah, well, if there's any opportunity to get off schedule on pit sequence or whatever, Alan Gustafson is going to take.
Oh yeah, rubbing his hands together.
Yeah, he's just just definitely making fire between his hands. I want to go ahead and give a shout out to Deb of Fast Lap. She's going to be at Bristol, which is awesome.
Oh, sweet.
So good for her. She and her husband secured tickets. I definitely said a lot of really good things about Blaney while we were talking with Brandon on Lap Traffic episode 200, but I'm going to go back to back.
Ooh.
And I'm going to pick Brad again for this weekend.
Double. I'm digging it.
Yeah, I'm going to make it take it.
I want to say that earlier this year after Brad won and I had picked Brad and I got the horn, I picked Brad again. Like, he's such a double down kind of guy. There's something about him.
He's won back-to-back races a bunch of times, even though he's only won 29 races now or whatever it is. Like, he's won back-to-back a lot. Like, he's a very, to your point, momentum kind of guy. Like, he's like an energy driver. Like, he can do more with that car when he is uber positive that he's got all the tools he needs to win.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He doesn't analyze a car and say, this is a 7th place car, let's try to finish 5th. He's like, this is either a 15th place car or we're winning this goddamn race. and that's what he does with it.
Yeah. Well, Aaron, it has been a blast having you on the show. Thank you for coming on again, and let's not make it another 100 episodes. And we're looking forward to what you have coming up next, coming soon. But until then, we'll be in the wings going, hey, what's Aaron doing over there? So appreciate, Motorsports Beat and everything is awesome. Why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and what is coming up for you?
All right, so this is me, AB93. You can follow me at AaronBearden93 on whatever insert social media here, except for maybe TikTok. I don't think I have a TikTok.
Good for
Motorsports
you.
Beat. Yeah, good for me, right? Motorsports Beat is at Motorsports Beat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm working on a lot of weird things right now, so there's not as much just daily either there coming out. I'm trying to write a book, and I'm launching a podcast, and I got a couple other weird niche-y things that I can't talk about yet on the air. So, but yeah, a lot of interesting things coming. Just keep an eye out on me and look out for the occasional pun. I apologize in advance.
I love that.
Well, if you ever need absolute nonsensical content for what may become the Aaron Bearden Racing podcast, I think there's a couple of guys, at least on this phone right now, that would be very willing to say yes to do something like that.
My man. And we get the thumbs up. Sherwin, close us out. Tell the folks what's going on.
All right. Well, you can follow us at PETM Podcast on both Twitter and on Instagram. You can follow me at Andrew L. Sherwin on Instagram and at Pregame Engineer on the old Twitter. You can follow Rusty at Tailgate Mirror on Twitter.
Awesome. I love it, and can't wait till next week. Can't wait to watch this Bristol race, see what happens. This is going to be a wild one. Looking forward to it. Fellas, we'll talk to y'all next week. I dig it, Aaron.
I love that song. It's fun.
Yeah. We had Sydney Lett's song, and then she's doing some big stuff with it. And so she asked us very humbly. She's like, I don't think I can. We're like, we're not going to use the song if you don't want us to, or if we can't. She's like, okay, thank you. Like, no, it's cool. We're totally cool.
Yeah,
So,
go be a star or do whatever.
yeah, go be a star. Don't forget the little people.
Yeah, we ain't trying to infringe.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's a wrap for the recording. We're still live on YouTube, hanging out and doing the after dark while I get this thing plugged in and everything. So
I did
Aaron,
a really crappy job of following the wall there.
So be it. How are you looking to get to a race this year, Aaron? Do you think, or is it a write-off?
NASCAR, maybe not. I mean, I covered Kentucky, and it's really cool, and I really appreciate that NASCAR is even giving us some sort of opportunity. But, I mean, for the time I put into it, there really wasn't anything I gained outside of being able to see Cole Custer pull off that four-wide move coming to the white flag.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to a point where we can at least in some way, shape, or form get to the garage and talk to people, and I might be able to get interviews and stuff again, then I'm all for it. And for right now, especially with as chaotic as my life is outside of racing too, like it's just easier for me to save that money and put it into things like podcasting equipment and get unique other things on the road than it is to try to travel right now. So
Yeah,
I might go to some short track races. I might go to the Snowball Derby. But
ooh, now that'd be fun.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Might cross that off the list.
yeah, no, that'd be fun.
Probably in NASCAR.
Well, cool, man. Well, all we're doing here now is just saving this podcast off and getting it, even with technical difficulties and everything. It's getting exported. It's going in as is.
So let me ask you this, Aaron, because
Yo.
we were actually present for this race, and it means a lot to us for a lot of reasons based on just being personal fans of what was happening that weekend. But do you think what happened with Cole Custer, and I will say till I'm blue in the face that's a legitimate win. That's not a rain shortened Daytona event. He legit passed the leader and won the race, just like Regan Smith did at Darlington. However, there still seems to be that sort of, I don't know, elephant in the room, if you will. Like, is this legit or not? I mean, I think Cole is fast enough. He's proved himself, at least from my perspective, in the 41. Kurt did what he does, but everybody knows Kurt's probably the best wheelman in NASCAR. And so he probably got some wins that he maybe never should have got, especially as he progressed through his career, the 22 and then ended up in the 41 before he went to the 1. But and even in the 1. But what is your perspective on, like, is Cole Custer's win? Is it more like Regan Smith's win at Darlington, or is it just everybody's got to get their first win somehow?
I mean, Custer was legitimately running top 10 and in position before that ever happened. Like, he was in position to strike when everything went crazy at the end. Now, if Truex doesn't knock Harvick on the backstretch on accident when they try to clear themselves coming to the white, probably doesn't happen. Probably doesn't get there. But for him to be in position and there to strike without any, I mean, there's no goofy late wreck that took the leaders out. There's nothing. He passed the quickest drivers all day, legitimately on pace with a move. So in my mind, Cole Custer earned that win legitimately under the system. Like,
Yeah.
To me, there's no pit strategy to that or nothing. He just drove up there and took it.
Yeah, well, it certainly wasn't fuel mileage. And so I agree with you, and I wasn't necessarily searching for you to agree with me on that. But I agree. I think that is definitely a legitimate win. Who knows what the future holds for Cole and that team, and what their capabilities are going to be. But it's interesting to me to think about, especially with all the talk about the Rookie of the Year stuff and how, that win essentially made him the Rookie of the Year, even though if we reset the points, he's probably not going to score the most traditional points as some of the other rookies.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been Reddick otherwise, but it's a system, man. I mean,
well, Rusty has said
living in a
this
playoff
probably
era.
100 times out of 260 episodes. You race what the rules are. People love to go back and the Gordon deal with Jimmy Johnson. I believe it was 2010 when, he won 10 races and Gordon won 6, but Gordon still scored more traditional points. But because of at that time, the chase, Jimmy ends up winning. But it's like, well, those guys would have raced differently if they were just racing for points. Once you get in, especially when you think about guys like Canals and Gustafson and Childers and some of those other absolute brainiacs that are on the pit box these days, you're not going to race the same way. If you want to score 43 points every race to win a season-long championship, you are going to race differently than if one 38th place finish might eliminate your opportunity to win a championship.
No, 100%. You're right. Look, Custer, it's just a win for him anyways, because I think, in my opinion, Custer's always been kind of a slow starter in each series. Like, it took him a year or so in the trucks, and then he started winning more consistently. It took him a year in Xfinity, and then he started rattling off victories. So for him, this has kind of even helped him just mask his rookie year. I mean, he's finishing, I think it's like 3 spots a race worse than Suarez was in that car last year. He's not lighting the world on fire, but he's a rookie. How are you going to expect him to? Right? So this is icing on the cake for him. Bell had already had some runs where people were like, ooh, and Reddick's consistent as can be, so everybody knew Reddick was going to be beloved. This was Custer's way of sneaking into that.
And most of us that are paying attention to what's going on around us in these series, particularly as much as we all care about, about all 3 of the National Touring Series, is the thing that doesn't seem to be said enough is that there is a reason why Christopher Bell is performing so well. Well, there's a couple different reasons. One of them is that's a really good race car driver they got wheeling that car. The other thing is Toyota officially started backing that car as a Joe Gibbs feeder program for Christopher Bell. So there's a reason why that car's better. And there's a reason why Bob Levine is going. He has to give every car that he has back to Joe Gibbs. They weren't even purchased from Joe Gibbs. They were leased.
Just written.
Like those cars are built by Joe Gibbs Racing and handed over to Levine and say, hey, put your wrap on it. And this is the setup that we suggest.
More or less, yeah. And like I said, all 3 rookies I think this year they've been fine. They've been at or better than the expectations I had for them.
They're as good as any rookie class since Rusty and I started watching racing. To be honest,
I don't think people understand how hard it is.
Yeah, to have 3 guys that are racing cars that aren't like your A number 1 cars, and to have a really competitive battle for Rookie of the Year, you couldn't ask for more from 3 guys that are 22, 23, and 25 years old or whatever they are. I mean, I got into the weeds a little bit with somebody the other day about Austin Cindric because he said he was trash, and I'm like, hey, a guy that wins 7 races legitimately in the Xfinity Series, he ain't trash, and I don't care what car he's racing. Like that guy can drive a race car. Do you hate nepotism? Okay, I understand that. Austin's daddy runs Haas F1, so there is that. Or Penske F1, but I mean, we've had a good little rookie race here. It's way better than the boner pill guy we talked about last week.
Extends
Conway.
Kevin Conway.
I mean,
name I haven't heard in a while.
I do understand the things that I've heard and all the other, the professionals say that maybe NASCAR had another one of their law of unintended consequences thing happen with this Rookie of the Year deal where, wow, if you win a race and make the playoffs, all of a sudden you get that point bonus that separates you. Maybe that should sort of reset for the rookies or something. Maybe it should be a little different because, I mean, winning races is obviously important, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like, do you make it
yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Do you make it a points thing, or do you do like they do in, like, say, the NFL, where it's like a certain group is voting on something like that? Like, because like if we had something very similar to this in like let's say it's in the NBA, and to somebody who like say like a Trey Young who gets drafted by a team that has no chance of making the playoffs, but he just balls out all year. Under this system, he has no chance at winning Rookie of the Year, even though he's a baller.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so maybe.
Well, only on offense, as it turns out.
Fundamentally flawed. Oh well, yeah. I mean, that's a given. That was just the first name that popped into
my
mind.
I love basketball, so I'm hypercritical of those things. No, but
I'm a Pacers fan, so I don't know what a major talent looks like. They all kind of just beat us.
Well, no, Trey is absolutely an offensive talent. A generational offensive talent. You don't accidentally score 40 points a game 3 games in a row. That just doesn't happen. But he doesn't play any defense. But I don't think total points is necessarily the way that maybe you should judge that now. But just purely winning a race, and that elevates you above everybody else in your category, I'm not sure. I don't know that necessarily rewards all the right things, because you're already getting paid for winning the race, right? Cole's getting a check. He doesn't need a Rookie of the Year check because he won a race, so he's already got the check.
Yeah.
He's got the bank account's looking pretty good.
Yeah. And mind you, it can.
How do we judge who the best rookie is?
Yeah, it's so tricky, because then if you leave it up to like voting or judging, that can be skewed by politics. So I think of like that. I have a great example from the IndyCar world. The Indy 500 Rookie of the Year is like a voted and determined thing. It's not based on your finish or anything. So a few years ago when Fernando Alonso ran, and mind you, he ran great. The 2017 one, I think it was, when he ran with Andretti. When he laps early on.
He failed a transmission or something real late with like 9 laps to go or something. Like, he was about to win that race.
It was like 20 something. He was like, I think he was like 7th or whatever. He had a car that could potentially drive up to the front again, but
I'm thinking of something more recent than that. But yeah.
Yeah, Ed Jones, who people might not even remember now, he's in DTM now because his IndyCar career didn't work out. But he finished, I want to say, 3rd in that race as a rookie and didn't win Rookie of the Year. They gave Rookie of the Year to Alonso. Like, I feel like at best or at worst, they should have done like a co-Rookie of the Year, which they have done before, and given them both recognition. Because how can you finish on the podium of the Indy 500 as a rookie and not be Rookie of the Year?
Well, and to your point there's probably people that would want to tar and feather me for saying I don't think Cole winning a race makes him Rookie of the Year, because Rookie of the Year is supposed to be a body of work. So the Indy 500 Rookie of the Year is kind of the same thing. It's one race. I mean, it's a month's worth of goofing off and burning gasoline, or I guess actually they use methanol, but like, how do I don't know what the right way to do it is, I guess, is what I'm saying. It feels weird, and I think I identify with the people that are like, yeah, I don't know that they've necessarily got this right on how you determine who the Rookie of the Year was, because it feels like a vote might be better if you could eliminate the politics, which I don't know that you could do that from any process when multiple people are involved. But
Not these days.
I'd like to see. I mean, as much poop as that we're willing to talk regularly about Hamlin and some of the other guys. Hamlin is a Hall of Fame race car driver. If he tells me that Christopher Bell's the Rookie of the Year, the only question I would have is, did you vote the Toyota party line, or is that the way you feel? But if Hamlin voted for Reddick, I'd be like, yeah, it seems like there's some integrity behind the reasoning for that vote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how you would do it. Because I feel like if you do anything like that among the drivers, even though you would do everything possible to eliminate it, I feel like they would get the whisper in their ear of, hey, vote for the Toyota guy, or hey, vote for the Chevy guy. And if the tally came out and they found out it looked like 3 Chevy guys voted somebody else, they'd probably get flack for it. And it sounds ridiculous, but that's just the way the politics in motorsports works.
Well,
not as severe as F1, but happens everywhere.
Yeah, well, it's one of those weird situations where you think about, like, I've always been, so the Baseball Writers of America don't have to disclose who they actually voted for the Hall of Fame for Major League Baseball. I'm like, well, why not? You know, it's same thing with the college voters for the polls. They don't have to disclose unless they want to who they voted for which position in the ranking order. And it's like, I can see both sides of why you might do it one way or the other. Because, like, you know, to your point, if 3 or 4 or 5 Chevy guys all voted for a Toyota guy to win whatever the award is in the situation that's being discussed, yeah, they might catch a ration of shit from Chevy for having done that if they're identified. Mm-hmm. So being anonymous, you know, might be of some benefit in that respect, because it removes a layer of bias. Could be as thin as the outer layer of an onion, but it might just be enough to where you actually get what you think you're going to get. Mm-hmm. But then you flip it around the other way, and we're like, well, why did this coach vote for that team to be in this position? Or why did this guy or that other guy vote for these teams to, you know, get a chance to play in the college football playoff or whatever? Like, they don't really have to disclose who they voted for. And maybe sometimes it feels like maybe they should. So yeah, it's a real catch-22 in a lot of ways.
For sure. I almost wonder if you would have to do like a weighted thing with multiple parties. So like maybe you've got like your leading 5 media people making up one part of the vote, and maybe you've got 20 drivers, and maybe you take your Hall of Famers and have them give a vote. Like maybe you do something like that where there's at least 2 parties that you would consider like totally unbiased. And mind you, nobody's totally unbiased. There's no such thing, but you're going to minimize your bias risk at that point where you've got multiple groups coming into it. But I don't know. I don't think there is any right answer, but
no, there's certainly not. There's definitely not. And we certainly aren't going to solve this on YouTube tonight. But no? It's an interesting thing to talk about because, you know, it is wildly variable. And then, but it also matters too, because there's a distinction associated with being Rookie of the Year that they wouldn't give you that trophy if it didn't matter. Like, are we super proud as fans, both Rusty and I, that Casey Kane and Chase both won Rookie of the Year? Well, hell yes, we are, because that's just one more pretty neat looking trophy. And, you know, our drivers probably got a pretty decent little check for that. Who knows how many numbers is on it? Doesn't matter to me. It matters to his accountant more than it matters to us. But it's still, Rookie of the Year. It's a distinction. It shows up in like your, you know, the first paragraph of your stats on Wikipedia is, 2004 or 2017 Rookie of the Year. If nobody cared about Rookie of the Year, you wouldn't print that because nobody would care. So I guess I wonder, and I'm not going to have any problem at all with Cole Custer walking away with Rookie of the Year. Win a race, he won it legit, boom. Okay, he's had a good year. Made the playoffs, still has a chance to make the round of 8 or 12, sorry. With opportunity to progress after that, obviously. But, I get caught up in all that nonsense of trying to figure out, well, what would I want? Well, like yesterday I might have wanted the way it is now. And today maybe I'd like to see the way they used to do it, where they took half the races plus one, and that whatever points you scored in half the races plus one, they take that window, and that's what makes the Rookie of the Year. So for a long time, it was 17 races, and then it became 19 races because we went from 34 to 36. We went from 31 from 32 to 34 to 36 in a matter of a really short period of time. But it made sense. Like, oh yeah, throw out the 3 shitty races, and then what did you do when you didn't wreck your car?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's such a weird thing because some years it feels like it has a lot of value, and other years it's like, oh, yeah, I guess he was the only rookie in the field. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I feel like I know what Cole will say is, I beat legit 2 guys that were just as fast as me, and I beat them. At the system that they provided me, I beat them, so I win, and I totally get that. I could argue that point, like if you're, they say a good lawyer works his way through how to beat his own case before he actually works through how to beat that case, because once you shoot holes in what you're trying to defeat, that's how you win. And I mean, right now, Cole's in that position.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love for him to still have to compete with those other guys. I guess that's what I'm saying. I would even if we're watching 12th, 13th, and 14th race each other for Rookie of the Year, that would just be one more compelling thing that they could put on television.
Oh, for sure. Because right now,
and give those guys sponsorship exposure.
Yeah, because right now, if Custer can't sneak into the round of 12 this weekend, I mean, in terms of expectation, his season's over. He's going to get Rookie of the Year because he's going to make it. Nobody's going to care how he does. I mean, the team will. They'll want to still try to finish top 10 or whatever. But a casual fan is not going to care whether Cole Custer finishes 16th or 9th in the end of season championship. And he's already got the Rookie of the Year sewn up. So that takes away one layer of the battle and strategy that you would have down the stretch between those 3. And it would still give him like that thing to chase, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel like for a guy like Cole, there's 2 goals, and there's 1A and 1B. 1A's win the race because that'll give you the most exposure. 1B is, well, if you stay in the playoffs, you're going to keep yourself relevant. So to your point and what you said is, if he doesn't pass this round, we're not going to talk about Cole Custer until 2021.
Yeah, more or less.
Pretty much. I mean, because in the grand scheme of things, people like us, people like you write for a profession. We spout all this bull spit, just for a goof, but it's because we love the sport. But we're not going to talk about him. You're not going to talk about him. You're not going to write about him. Probably not. Not unless there's some kind of announcement about a new sponsor or something.
Or, I mean, Lord willing, he sneaks up and runs good again, wins another race or something.
Exactly, which is why 1A is win the race.
Yeah.
And 1B is stay sponsor relevant.
Yeah. Keep that Haas name out there.
Because you don't have to do 1B if you do 1A.
Yeah.
If you win the
Which,
race, you do the sponsor thing.
by the way, that '06 Martinsville race y'all were talking about, I didn't want to interrupt on it.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite things from looking at that was freaking Jeff Green with a Haas Automation sponsored 66 and like 8th.
Yeah.
Like it's weird. It's weird to think that the guy who was fielding Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen at Mugello in the Tuscan Grand Prix was once delivering Mike Bliss and Jeff Green to Cup Series top tens.
Mm-hmm.
Like that just does not compute to me. It's so cool and so random.
Well, and here's the other thing that makes it fun in ways that are not interconnected in any way, but that number 66 car was owned by Rusty Wallace.
Oh yeah.
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 Old Steve-O back in the day, man. He's still an interesting cat to run into sometimes. You see him every now and again running late model races.
He's a good race car driver. He's just dumb as a box of rocks.
He's a hard-headed driver. I've watched him bump and run pretty severely a couple kids at a CRA race one time, but it's part of it. And it's kind of cool when you watch those races now, because you'll see a kid like Raphael Lassard, who y'all know now in the Truck Series, or like Christian Eckes.
Oh, he made a boo-boo last weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, you'll have kids like that before we see them in the NASCAR stage. They have to go up in late models and run against like Bubba Pollard or Steve Wallace or Stephen Nasse. And like, if you get on one of their bad sides, it's like you're feeding them to the wolves before you ever get them up to running with the big boys in NASCAR. It just gets real interesting.
Well, and I think that is where a lot of like that old school, like just absolute love for the sport comes from, is that you have those guys at your local track, and that's their thing. They're like, yeah, I work, 50 hours a week, machining parts, but on Friday night, I've got my car ready to run, and there's $1,200 or $1,500 or $2,000 at the end of this race available to me, and ain't no young little whippersnapper gonna take that from me. And it's the young whippersnapper that learns how to pass that guy without pissing him off that ends up in NASCAR.
Oh yeah, there was, man, who was it? I think it was 2 years ago. I was at the Winchester 400, and a very young Raphael Lassard was actually in position to try to win that race. God, who was he? I think it was Jeff Choquette. Maybe. I think he's the one that won that. Lassard was in position late in the race where he could have been that guy and just bullied Choquette out of the way, won the race. It would have just been a little story. Nobody would have thought anything of it. He raced him clean. He bumped him a little bit. There was a little short track fun. But he never moved him into the wall or anything. He raced him clean, and Choquette ended up holding him off and winning. But just seeing this like 16-year-old kid, and here's this like, I think he's like late 30s dude. He walks over and like shakes the kid's hand and is like, "Hey man, you did great out there. Thank you for this." Like that is what you live for as like a short track guy, is like seeing the moments where the kids like really learn and grow and seeing it like play out in front of you. That's really what the Truck Series always was to me until, I mean, it still kind of is now, but a lot of them, they learn that stuff at the late model level. I feel like now I kind of wish that, Arca kid, Ty Gibbs. I kind of wish Joe would throw him in some more late model races. I'm a little nervous about him with some of that. He's like bullying a lot of them Arca guys out of the way, and I'm worried that he's going to get a rude awakening if he goes straight to the national level from there.
Yeah, well, not to just vote the straight party line on what, a lot of NASCAR or stock car fans say about wanting more short tracks, but there is some magic to why short track racing breeds good racers. And it's that because, you'll have a guy, let's say Kyle Busch is in that race and he runs fifth, and he goes back and watches the like NFL all 22 version of that race, which is all the things that matter for his car. And then, out in the distance, you can see the behavior of that kid. He's like, well, that guy was clearly faster, but he was executing etiquette as opposed to just pure, I have to win this race. That's the only way anybody's going to notice what I'm doing. There are going to be guys like Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, you name it. They're going to see that and go, there's something about that is very admirable. Like, he could have just taken the win. He's 16 years old. Like, well, what were you doing when you were 16? I was catching stuff on fire. I'm sure Rusty was too. We were trying to figure out, oh, wait, I got a driver's license now. When are we allowed to start drinking beer? Probably as soon as we can find some. And this kid's out there, trying to turn that into a profession, which is an entirely different animal. And there is value in that. You don't have to win for people to notice what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Well, for sure. Like guys like a Landon Castle, like they can go out there and they know if Martin Truex Jr. is coming up on Landon Castle in a backmarker car, he feels pretty confident that Landon Castle is going to give him room. He's going to handle that right, and he's not going to wreck him. If Martin Truex Jr. comes up on, I feel like I'm piling on this kid because he's had some moments this year, but like a Quinn Hoff sometimes earlier in the year had moments where guy would come up behind him to lap him, and they're nervous. This kid's going to like dart, or this kid's going to slide up on me. This kid's going to run the wrong
lane.
He's
pit without waving from the third lane.
that was, oh my gosh. Jimmy Johnson, mother of God. But
happened to him twice. I mean, even Kyle Busch did it to him.
It's crazy, man. But like little things like that casual. I mean, we look for it. I feel like because we're ingrained enough in the sport. I feel like you guys are in the same boat. You catch stuff like that, but maybe like my dad who just tunes in and drinks a beer and watches the race. He might not catch that. Like he just sees two guys running 32nd and 33rd. He doesn't know the difference much between them. But the drivers notice that stuff.
Oh, you're 100%. I mean, I generally listen to Chase's radio broadcast, and when Huff dove down in front of Jimmy, I can't remember where Chase was on the track, but he was like, "What the fuck was that?" And I'm like, "Did Chase just say the F word?" Because he doesn't do that a lot. But they're all paying attention. Like, yeah, that guy's to use an Eric Almirola phrase, a dart with no feathers.
Yeah, for sure. Or it's the one they use in the short tracks, a squirrel looking for nuts. Like it's crazy, man. There's all kinds of people out there these days. You never know, especially some of those rides that change every week. Like I think it's interesting. Sometimes you'll hear guys coming up to lap somebody for the first time, and they'll ask their spotter, "Who's in that car this week?" Like, is this somebody I can trust myself around, or is this some random dude that bought a ride this week? I'm a little nervous about this kid.
Boy, that happens so much too. What's really funny to me is the drivers that are like, they're in their car every week. They know which car they're getting in. They have the same spotter, the same crew chief every week. And a car pulls up behind them, or they're approaching a car that they want to pass. And they're like, "Who's in that car?" It's like, that car has like wall-to-wall sponsorship for the entire year, and that driver's won like 15 races in his career, and you don't know who's in that car? Like, just the total just blank, like just don't care what's going around me. The only thing I care right now is about my steering wheel and my gas pedal. Like, just who's in that car? Jimmy Johnson? Oh, I couldn't see the 48. No, you could. You're weird.
You tunnel visioned that hard, son. Yeah. It's got to be even worse now because they all change liveries like every other week. So, like, unless you're coming up on, like, Denny or Kyle that have, like, normal full-time sponsors, it's like, the hell's on his car this week? Who is that? Who's driving that green car? Like, what?
Right. That definitely makes a difference. I mean, you think about, we talked about Larson earlier, but, how many times he drove that Target car when Ganassi still had that sponsorship. We're like, every week you can pretty much guarantee the red and white 42 car.
Yep.
And Hamlin, I mean, he's at the top of the list on that. I don't know how he managed to do it. I don't know if that's a Gibbs magic thing or what. He's got the only wall-to-wall sponsorship in NASCAR right now. I mean, FedEx is literally on that car full boat every single week, and that is not the now for NASCAR.
It's nice. It's convenient. It makes it a whole lot easier to track it. Like sometimes it's cool to see the special paint schemes, and like I love it with the sponsors that invest and still do it. Like I think of Harvick with the Busch beer cars. Like they've had like 6 iconic paint schemes in 1 year this year on that Busch car. But man, it is hard when it's somebody like, well, shoot, even like Brad now. Like used to the 2. If I needed to find the 2, I just looked for a Miller logo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, there's the Miller car. Okay, that's Brad. Found him. Now it's like, so is he sponsored by Alliance this week? Is it a discount car? Oh, this is the 1 week a year he's still got Miller. Okay, I see it now. Like I can't keep track of it, and I feel like I'm very ingrained in the sport. So I can't imagine what it's like for dude, especially now that you don't have practice or qualifying to try to catch up on who's who this week. You tune in for just the race and you don't have a clue who's sponsoring the 42. It's like, what car is that?
Yeah, is this, what are we doing? Truian? What, with an R?
Like what? Boudreaux's butt paste? What?
Yeah, what is this thing? I mean, Rusty and I got to live through, I guess, about 4 years of just dodge. That's all Casey was it was red and it was white and it was Dodge. And, they ran that Mountain Dew scheme once a year, and then they ran the Mopar scheme once a year, both of them at Charlotte. And that was it. Every other time of the year, it was red. And then they went to Budweiser when Junior went to Hendrick, and it was red again.
More red.
I'm like, this is pretty easy to figure out. It's red. Okay.
Yeah. Used to be easy. Like Sterling Marlin and the Silver Bullet.
Yeah, or like think about those. All those. When you think about Morgan McClure, do you think about Swervin Irvin and Sterling Marlin, or do you think about the number 4 Kodak car?
Oh,
like for me, it's the number 4 Kodak car. Oh yeah. By the way, there were some pretty cool guys that drove that car, but for me, it was that yellow number 4 Kodak car.
Yep. Or like the Rainbow 24, or that old like black and red, the Texaco Haviland 42. Like you get back in the day, you knew the colors. Like even guys who were running like 20th, like I knew Chad Little was in the green and yellow John Deere car. I never had to wonder what car was Chad Little's in 18th.
Greatest mullet in the history of NASCAR.
Fantastic.
It just, I mean, that Jesse hasn't tried to emulate that in some way more so than he already has. He's not taking advantage of the greatest marketing skill he has, which is being Chad Little's son.
Yes. There is an opportunity there. You got to capitalize on them mullet gains while you have the chance.
Well, he did the mustache and the mullet for Darlington, I think, but he still didn't. Maybe it's just the John Deere colors that are so iconic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody tractors yellow and green. Everybody knows that's John Deere. Oh yeah, John Deere green. I got it. Billy Bob loves Charlene. Yep, I got it.
Yep. Nice and simple. It was the ideal. That's an easy way to make yourself stand out. Just look weird. This year, it's like the Stenhouse method.
Yeah, I mean, once he left Roush, like, I don't even know what's going on over there. Like, I understand exactly what, JTD Doherty is doing with their Kroger relationship by trying to exercise the brands that Kroger wants to market. But it's so weird. That's what was going on with Target and Chip Ganassi. Is the reason why Target was willing to be on the car is as a conduit for the brands that they were aligned with having on their shelf. So you and I and Rusty, we see, and the other NASCAR fans on television, we see a red car with a white 42 number. Looks sharp, stands out. Everybody knows what that car is. But it's got Kleenex and Clorox and Pampers and everything else all over it. You know, all those consumer brands that Target sells. And that's how they generated that sponsorship opportunity. Was Target wasn't spending that money. Their vendors were spending that money. And Target was just like, this looks like a good way to capitalize on the marketing opportunity. We can put a big old bullseye on the hood, and then we can give all our preferred vendors, you know, spots on the car and let them pay for this car because cars are expensive.
Yeah.
That's pretty much.
They are.
That's the JTG D, that's the model they're following. Works fine.
Kroger Mobile.
Yeah, and that's why you see most of the time Stenhouse is in the Kroger car, or Priest is in the Kroger car, and then the other car, depending on the weekend, is representing an actual consumer brand with like Kroger accent somewhere, C-post, rear quarter panel, whatever it is.
100%. He almost won a race this year. It's crazy to think back on now. Ricky Stenhouse was like 3 feet and a door bang away from winning Dega. Imagine this playoff with him in at Bristol.
Oof.
Oh boy, close.
At least 3 more wrecked race cars. At least 3.
We had 2 potential playoff wild cards in that one run to the finish line at Dega, because Eric Jones got door slammed to the next county, and then then Stenhouse missed it by the length of his mullet. So it was an interesting little finish there. It's crazy to look back on now. I also can't believe that's Blaney's only win this
ended
year.
up winning that one?
Yeah, it's his only win this year.
Yeah.
His last 2 wins have been the Dega playoff race and the Dega spring race.
Huh.
Well, summer race, I guess, this year.
He's definitely following sort of the same footsteps as the Chase model of, oh, this is a guy that grew up driving, quarter mile legends his whole life as a teenager, and now all of a sudden he's winning super speedways and road courses. Like, what?
Yeah. Excuse me. Something else, man. Interesting kid.
Well, we got lots of After Dark tonight, didn't we? Goodness.
Sure enough.
How does the YouTube thing work for y'all? Do people like ask questions or anything in it, or is it just like a hangout type thing?
Yeah, they're hanging out right now, and they'll ask questions or provide commentary.
They're still doing it. Roger just posted something about the Energizer sponsorship of the 42.
Yeah. I got to get running here shortly. I've got early morning meetings and all that mess.
Here. I know the feeling.
Dadgum day job, Why don't we just sit here and talk NASCAR all day?
Yeah, well, I need Marcus Lemonis to get me on that deal. Rick, I'm gonna pitch and be like, hey, you got an extra like $30,000 to fund a motorsports outlet? That's all I need to go full time from here.
Well, I'll end the stream here.